One of the first mistakes I see new coders make, especially when writing new methods or classes, is forgetting to use guard statements. Let's look at this sample piece of code up here. We can see that if a user is passed in, some work is done, and otherwise some other work is done. It seems pretty harmless right now, but let's fast forward about 6 months to when there's a lot more code and unfortunately now some spaghetti. So here we are a couple months later, and as you can see, the code has grown. It does all the things we want. It looks up users, it adds users to the database, it even has a nice little permissions check. But unfortunately, the code is pretty hard to read and pretty hard to maintain. The cyclomatic complexity is high, and also the cognitive load for somebody to actually read and maintain it. Let's see how we could do this differently if we were to use guard statements. Here's that same piece of made-up logic, but implemented using guard statements, or an early out. If the condition is met, we return control back to the calling method. What you'll see at first glance is it's a lot flatter and a lot more readable. What you may have missed was there was actually a bug hidden in all that spaghetti in the last implementation, but we'll get there. Okay, so the first guard, if a user is none, if it's not provided, we return whatever this temporary user is, and that's it. No need to continue. Further down, we use a similar looking approach, no else, but actually this is just a control flow. It's a lot nicer. If we didn't find a user, let's just make it and continue. Now, for the second guard, which was actually our bug before, in the last implementation, new users bypassed the can have spaghetti security check. Now it is clear that everybody has to pass it. Another early out. If we don't have access to the spaghetti, we should return. Finally, the method completes. You can imagine additional logic someday after that last guard. Now, which piece of code would you rather maintain?